Hi guys, my name is Megan and today I have my December wrap up for you. So I read a pretty good amount of books this month. Got through 4 and I'm working my way through number 5, so that's pretty good this month for me. So the first book I read for December was Day Shift. This is the second book in the Midnight Texas series. So if anybody is familiar with Midnight Texas, the TV show that played on NBC over the summer, these are the books that it's based off of, and I really love this book. Midnight is just such a weird little town, and I always find that little tiny towns are just so creepy and yet so very, very interesting because there's so much that's hiding in them, and especially in Midnight, the residents are not quite what they seem. So there's vampires, were-tigers, witches, psychics, angels, demons, all sorts of really cool, interesting things that all kind of are hiding and keeping their secrets in this teeny tiny little town of Midnight. And I say teeny tiny, they have a blinking light for their one light in town, and that's it. And I really loved this book. It was just such an interesting read, and I always loved Charlene Harris's work. So I gave Day Shift a 4 out of 5 stars, and this book was so good, and I can't wait to get my hands on Night Shift, the next book in the series. The next book that I finished in December was The Last Olympian. This is the final book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, and I loved this. This was so good, and it was a little bit emotional for me because I plowed my way through the entire series this year, and this is like, the ending of this was like perfect and yet a little heart-wrenching. This was just such a really good book all around. I really liked that they finally drew in more of the gods, and it was just so high stakes, and you also got to see some side characters that hadn't been seen very much before. It was just so interesting to see how a war raged across an entire city with none of the bystanders noticing. It was just so interesting, and I really, really love this, and this got a solid 4.5 out of 5 stars for me. And I really can't wait to get my hands on the next series, which I'll talk about that in my January TBR, so stay tuned for that. So the next book that I finished this month was The Glass Spare. This was the November Owl Crate Book of the Month, and I flew through this book in 3 sittings, maybe. This is one of my favorite books this year, and like, I cannot love this book enough. It was so good, and I think I read it at like the right time because I was going from a young adult urban fantasy to a fantasy and then straight into an adult urban fantasy, so it was like at the right time. And you know those books that come like right at the right time and you fall instantly in love with them? That is this book for me. I love this, and as soon as I get the review done, I will link it up above in the corner. And the characters are all amazing. They're snarky, they're sarcastic, they're funny, they're loving and complicated, and there's a curse. There's 2 curses actually mixed into this, and there's maybe a love triangle, but not really, but there is. And it was just so interesting to see how the main character Wilhelmina's powers played into this. So Will has this cool power where if she touches somebody, they basically will turn to gemstones, and it's not just people, it's animals, plants, bugs, insects, and it's just so interesting and cool, and I gave it a solid 5 stars. So the next book that I finished this month was Black Widow. So this is book 12 in the Elemental Assassins series. So Jenna's a morally gray character. She's kind of an anti-hero. So she goes around killing people for good reasons, mostly. And this book was so pivotal, I think, in that Jen goes from being hunted for things that she's done in the underworld to being like the, spoiler alert, the big boss of everything, and having to deal with all the other underworld bosses in a different way than what she's normally had to. And this was such a good book. There was a lot of grief through the middle part, but I was really, really happy with where this book ended up, and I can't wait to get my hands on the next book, and this one I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I'm currently reading it as of the filming of this video, is Ruin and Rising, and I am not quite halfway done with it, and this is such an amazing book. Like, there is still some of that political upheaval going on, but there's also a ton of adventure, and I already like this one way better than the last one. And I love that the characters are so strong so far, and I can't wait to see. Sorry, I keep trying to like read the book as I'm talking about it. I shouldn't do that, but I'm really loving this book so far, and I can't wait to see how this ends. I'll probably have this done next week sometime, but with Christmas right around the corner. By the way, this is being filmed pre-Christmas, so just so you have an idea of when this is being filmed. I will probably have this done before the end of the year, and I'm trying to get to maybe one other book before New Year's. So these are all the books that I read in December. Let me know what you guys have read this month. But I gotta say, by far, my absolute favorite book that I have read this month was The Glass Sphere, and I'm so happy that Owl Crate included it in the November Owl Crate box because it was seriously amazing. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and you can also hit the notification button to get notifications whenever I post a new video. And if you would like to follow me on social media, I will leave a couple of links down below. Alright, that's all I've got for you guys. Bye!